The story of a millionaire trader, Chris Gardner, the man who made it. Chris Gardner's story is one of those cases where the phrase, the man who could, doesn't sound pompous at all. Because when you tell it as it really is, it's downright chilling. This is a story of a man who started not just from scratch, but from the depths without money, connections, stability, and essentially without a home. Chris Gardner was born into very difficult circumstances. He had a difficult childhood. He grew up in a poor family where money and relationships were constantly a problem. He would later say that this feeling of instability and lack of support greatly influenced his character and his outlook on life. He realized early on that if he didn't do something himself, no one else would. As a more mature adult, his life also struggled for a long time. He tried his hand at various fields, looking for ways to make money, seizing any opportunity. At one point, he started selling medical equipment, large expensive diagnostic machines. On paper, it looked like a normal business, but in practice, things turned out to be much more complicated. The machines were too expensive, sold poorly, debts mounted, and there was practically no income. Many problems gradually destroyed his life. Ultimately, Chris was left alone with a small son and nothing else. There were periods when they simply had nowhere to sleep. They slept wherever they could, in shelters, in public places, sometimes even in restrooms at the subway stations. And this is not an exaggeration, but the reality he lived through. I honestly didn't believe it myself at first, but despite all of this, he didn't give up on the idea of changing his life. Even this situation, he continued to look for an opportunity that presented itself completely unexpectedly. One day, he saw a man in an expensive car and simply struck up a conversation. During the conversation, he learned that he worked as a broker, and that was when it all clicked. In Chris's head, if this man could do it, then he had a chance too. That's how he first learned about world of stock exchange and brokerage. He began researching the topic, asking questions, seeking information, and at some point he managed to land an internship at a brokerage firm. It was an unpaid internship, meaning it didn't pay him at all. Just think about it. You have no money, no place to live, a small child to care for, and you go to work for free because you understand it's your only chance to pull yourself and your life back together. Not everyone could do that. He completed his internship while simultaneously figuring out where to spend the night and what to feed his son. He studied during the day and in the evenings. He thought about how to survive another night. At the same time, he knew that competition was fierce. And with so many interns, only a few would ultimately remain, leaving him with virtually no room for error. He literally grasped everything on the fly and worked harder than anyone else, not because he had something to prove, but because he had to. And it was this focus and total dedication that played a decisive role. Over time, he noticed he was among the few who remained at the company. From that moment on, his life began to change. He had a job, a stable income, and most importantly, the realization that he was finally standing on his own 2 feet. From there, things didn't happen overnight, but steadily. He continued to work, develop, and gain experience. He had become a successful broker and later found his own company. This is what made him a millionaire. A man who went through being homeless with a child to making a fortune in the financial markets. Owning your own business is risky and comes with no guarantees, but he knew what he was getting into and was prepared. He founded his own brokerage firm, which focused on wealth management. The company began to grow, acquiring clients and serious money, something that usually ruins everyone, but not Chris. He never forgot where he came from. He often spoke openly about his past, without shame. On the contrary, he considered it a part of his life. Over time, his story became widely known, not because he was deliberately promoting it, but because it stood out from the typical success stories. His life later became the basis for a book and then a film, which made his story famous worldwide. But Chris himself always emphasized the firm is only part of the truth. The reality was even more complex, even more difficult, and even more painful. And here I want to take a short break, because everything I'm saying about Chris is directly related to what you can learn. By the way, I have my own Telegram channel where I host daily trading sessions, lots of useful educational content, trade analysis, and practical recommendations. Plus, I have a giveaway, a once a week giveaway, 100% bonus on your deposit. To participate, just write, "I want to enter the giveaway" in the comments down below, and I'll send you a special link. So, he's been through literally everything: a poor childhood, loneliness, homelessness, financial ruin, spending nights with his child in orphanages, and yet he never gave up on himself or his goal. Every obstacle became a lesson. Every failure became an opportunity to understand how to move forward. He proved that a person can change their life even when it seems like the odds are stacked against them. He became an example that success isn't just about money, but about responsibility for yourself, your loved ones, and the decisions you make every day. He demonstrated that self-respect and honesty with others are more important than any amount of wealth. His path, a clear example that everyone can change their life. The most important thing is their desire and aspirations. If Chris Gardner's story resonated with you, if you want to do more than just listen to success stories, but really understand how the market works and how to build your own path, I have my own Telegram channel. There are daily trading sessions, lots of educational content, trade reviews, live practice. Subscribe, like, and leave your thoughts down in the comments.